almost there. For Nely Galán, entrepreneur, TV producer, and real estate mogul, helping women to become self-made is a movement and a mission. Galán pulls no punches. She's the straight-talking friend and mentor you've always wanted, and here she shares valuable, candid, no-nonsense lessons learned on her own path to becoming self-made. You'll read inspiring stories of women who started and grew businesses out of ingenuity, opportunity, and need. You'll find exercises to help you identify your goals and your strengths. You'll learn tips and tricks for saving money, making money, and finding hidden money that can help you jumpstart your self-made dreams. Nely Galán is a woman's empowerment advocate, an Emmy Award-winning television producer, the owner of Galán Entertainment, a dynamic multicultural media company that has created more than 700 television shows in English and Spanish and helped launch 10 channels around the world. The former president of Telemundo's entertainment division, Galán is also the founder of Adelante movement, national motivational tour and digital platform that unites and empowers Latinas socially, economically, and politically. She's a sought-after speaker who has spoken at the Coca-Cola Company, American Express, J.P. Morgan Chase, General Electric, and the Clinton Foundation, and the United Nations. But to hell with them, she's at Books and Books tonight. Please give her a nice round of applause.
Thank you. You're so good. You can tell he's done this before. He's very good. Well, very happy to be here with all of you. I love Miami. It's my happy place. Happy to be in Coral Gables. And my favorite thing in life is bookstores. I always wanted to write a book. And so I'm very proud that I got to do it. Estoy feliz de estar aquí en Miami, que es uno de mis lugares favoritos en el mundo, como cubana, aquí en Coral Gables, y feliz de estar en la mejor tienda de libros en los Estados Unidos, Books and Books. Siempre, como mis padres saben, me han encantado los libros. Cuando era chiquita, mi mamá me llamaba, ven a comer, y yo leyendo libros, y mi sueño era escribir un libro, así que estoy muy feliz que escribí este libro. So I'm very proud. My mom used to call me to dinner, and I'd be reading a book in the attic, and I wouldn't come to and I'd bring the book with me, and so my dream was to write a book, so here I am. I think that it's important to start. I really would love to read you all my dedication, because they're going to cry, but what the heck. Because without the people I dedicated this book to, there would be no book, no life, no self-made life. So I'm going to read it in English and in Spanish. So this book is dedicated to my parents who are here, Arsenio and Nelida, who sacrificed everything to bring me to this country, and to whom I owe my self-made journey. Los quiero mucho. I love you both very much. To Brian, my mate, who is not here, who's at home with his dad in critical condition in the hospital, who entered my life while we were both working on becoming self-made inside and out, and who has brought only light, love, and generosity into my life. You are the most considerate and loving person I know. I love and appreciate you. Thank you for loving my son and being the best dad in the world, which has allowed me to soar. And to my son, Lucas, you are my love. You have made my life rich in every way. I pass the self-made torch to you. I know you have it in you, so go get your own chips soon. No lo voy a leer en español porque si no ustedes empiezan a llorar. So this book came about because I was blessed enough that in 2008, when the economy crashed, I had a very exciting career in television as an executive, as an entrepreneur, and I had been on Celebrity Apprentice with Donald Trump. You can ask me questions about that later. And when I got off of that, the economy crashed, and all my shows were frozen. And when my shows were frozen, I panicked like all immigrants, because you think it's all going to go away, always. And my dear mate Brian said to me, instead, you really shouldn't worry. You are self-made. You've already made money. You can take time off. And I go, no, I can't, because we all think it's going to go away. And he said to me, if you were to die in a year, what would you regret? And Lucas had said to me, at that time he was 8 years old, and Lucas said to me, Mom, you never finished college, and you've done really well. Why do I have to go to college? And I thought, oh boy, I'm screwed now. And so I decided to take a sabbatical and go back to school. And I went back to school. I did a 6-year program in 4 years, year-round, and I got a master's and doctorate in clinical psychology. And in those 4 years, my life changed, because I was able to step away from the rat race of everything I had been doing since I was 14 years old, working like a dog. And I realized I got to heal a lot of my own issues and my own, this obsession with succeeding and this ambition. And I got to do a lot of my own healing. And I decided to write my dissertation on Latinas in America. Because after the 2008 crash, Latinas, out of necessity, because so many fathers and husbands had lost their jobs, had risen up in entrepreneurship and had become the fastest growing entrepreneurs in the country. And I realized that I needed to explore what was going on with Latinas, including myself. And when I came off of that journey, I had joined one of Coke's boards, their marketing board. And the president of Coke, North America, said to me, Nely, Latinas in the U.S. are the #1 emerging market in the world. And they are going to control the U.S. economy for the next 50 years. And you should do something about that. And I thought to myself, is somebody giving me another job to do? Because those of us that are leaders get asked to do everything. And when I finished my dissertation, I showed it to him and he said, you just wrote the business plan for what you need to do next. So I've spent the last 4 years traveling around the United States, talking to Latinas, training Latinas in entrepreneurship, and along the way, all these other multicultural women showed up. Yo voy a explicar todo después en español, no se preocupen. African American women, Asian women, Middle Eastern women, Indian women, Native American women that had no other place to go would come and say, our stories are just like your stories. Nobody's paying attention to us, but we are crushing it. We've all jumped into the entrepreneur thing because there was a perfect storm in that the digital age had come about where there are no barriers to entry to start a side hustle while you have a job, to enter the entrepreneurship world, and to really create a new reality for yourself. I think so many of us after the 2008 crash realized your company can be disrupted. You can be laid off. You can reach a certain age and a company can hire 3 of you for 1/10 of what they pay you. And so I say in this book, the new ticking clock for women is to become self-made. Because sooner or later, it's a muscle you need to begin. Sooner or later, it will become a necessity. So I wanted to read you a little bit from the book, and I'll read it in English, and I'll read you a part in Spanish, to give you an idea of what this book is about. And this is the part that explains what I think most of us, including myself, didn't really understand when I started this journey. I am self-made. What a powerful thing to be able to say, especially as a woman and as one who was not born in this country, who was not until recently a college graduate, who did not have an obvious skill or talent, and who did not invent a multi-billion-dollar product. I am an ordinary woman who has had an extraordinary life, not because I went to the right schools or had connections, but because I took success and happiness into my own hands and became financially self-reliant by thinking like an entrepreneur. To be able to say I am self-made is an honor. To be self-made is a new way of defining success for women. A self-made woman is free because she is financially independent and on her way. A self-made woman acts as if she has an owner's stake in every aspect of her life because she does. A self-made woman is empowered, self-reliant, and rich in every way. Becoming self-made does not have to be a grandiose feat. You don't have to look up to find a self-made woman. Just look around you. She's the stay-at-home mom with a baby who runs an online boutique out of her apartment. The cleaning lady who books through her website and charges through PayPal. The freelance nurse who processes payments through Square. The franchise owner who employs her whole family. The corporate employee who sells jewelry designs on Etsy's on the side. The empty nester who rents out rooms in her house through Airbnb. The baker who promotes her one-of-a-kind cakes on Instagram. The millennial who's paying off college by driving for Uber. These are all some of the women I have met on the road over the past 4 years. They are the embodiment of becoming self-made, and they are the inspiration for this book. I'm going to move forward a little bit and then read you another part. Here we go. When I arrived in this country from Cuba as a little girl, the United States had just come through the women's movement of the 1960s. Gloria Steinem, the inspirational activist and founder of Ms. Magazine, was its iconic leader. Of course, as a child learning how to navigate a new culture, I wasn't aware of the dramatic societal changes taking place. All I knew was that this country offered my family a safe place to begin our lives again, a land of opportunity and political freedom. We had control over our destiny, the power of our self-determination. With hard work and sacrifice, we could build a better life as generations of immigrants did before us. As I grew up and got an education, I learned more about the advances and opportunities forged by feminist pioneers like Steinem, politicians and writers and journalists who inspired so many courageous women to break through the boundaries and fight for equal rights at home and in the workplace. Despite the strong traditional values I was raised with as a Latina and the sometimes old-fashioned ideas of what a young woman should be and should not do, the women's movement resonated with me on an emotional and intellectual level. As an immigrant, I understood that this was the greatest country in the world for women, and I deeply appreciated it and wanted to take full advantage of the opportunities I had. Okay, let me just move forward a little bit and then say, hold on. Okay, I'm going to move up here. 4 decades after the original women's movement rocked the culture, the economic crash of 2008 would create a new reality for millions of women who were pushed into becoming the heads of households after their husbands and fathers lost their jobs. These women had to step it up. Out of necessity, Latinas, African Americans, Asians, and Middle Eastern women led the charge as the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs and a tremendous economic force in this country. Among women, Latinas are the #1 emerging market in the United States, and along with other multiculturals, African Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans, and women of Middle Eastern descent, they represent the largest growth engine in the U.S. economy. Similarly, around the world in the BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, and in countries with emerging economies in Africa and the Middle East, in spite of the challenges posed by religious and political obstacles, population sizes, and daunting competition, women are rising up and becoming entrepreneurs for the sake of their children and families. Because of these economic shifts, women today, from many different cultures and backgrounds, are united in a quest for a new financial future, one they can control. So I think that tells you what this book is about, and this sets the tone. But since I wrote the book, and I've been on tour since March, I realized that there's even a more, the stakes are very high for all of us. As we know, we live in times that are very precarious. As Latinas in the room, and as multicultural women in the room, we're being threatened. People are talking about us. People are saying things about us. And so not only are we rising up economically, but our voices need to rise up as well. We need to use the power of our purchase as the #1 purchasers in the country to support companies that support us. We need to use our vote like never before and stand up and vote for whoever we believe in. And I think we need to stand up and speak up and be braver than ever, because women are being talked about, multicultural women are being talked about, and Latinas are being trashed. Let's be honest. So I think more than ever, the economic future of women, the economic future of Latinas, the economic future of multicultural women is a key to the strength and the going forward of this country. So why don't we begin by asking some questions? Te les prometo que en cuanto hagamos alguna pregunta, hago un poquito de contenido en español. Any questions, anything you want to ask me about anything from the audience? Sonia. Sonia.
I'm never at a lack of questions.
Never.
Why don't you tell, because your stories are just wonderful, so why don't you tell a
Yes.
Even when you were very little. Because I think the daring is a fundamental part of being ultimately entrepreneurial, right? Because you're listening to your voice
Yes.
and you're going with it. And you're not being afraid. But the non-school story, or I mean, those were
Yes.
transformative, right?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about, I don't know if I want to get into those too much right now, since parents and everybody's here and they won't understand. But I think that you're right. I think that from an early age, I did do very daring things, not because I was so daring myself, because I admit in the book that I'm very afraid every day of my life. But that sometimes it's the Yiddish word chutzpah. You have to have a little chutzpah to get to the next level and to really understand that this is not a country that deals well with wimpiness, right? We like people that are loud. We like controversial people. We like people that speak up. And as I reminded my parents my whole life, we came to this country for freedom of speech. So how could we not use that, right? So I agree with you that that is a key to this book, is finding your voice as a brave woman and as a brave person to get to the next level. Other questions? Yes?
Nely, talk about your idea of what are the challenges that Hispanics and specifically Latinas face with their relationship with money.
Well, I think in the book we talk about that we carry a lot of baggage in our mind, that we don't, like the word rich, it's almost like a bad word, or that we don't think we deserve it, or that we think it's going to somehow change our lives. And in fact, in the book I say that, mission and money are parallel tracks. And if you don't have money and if you're not abundant, you cannot have the freedom. It's not that money makes you happy, it doesn't. But money buys you the freedom that gives you choices to do great things with your life. And also, if you don't have money, you can't give back to your community. And I really do say a lot that I've been influenced a lot by the Jewish American community, the African American community, the LGBT community, who have been very loud and have had to, out of even more pain, really come out and declare what they want. And I feel like I just wrote an op-ed piece that said our silence is killing us. I feel like in our own community, in the Latino community, we are not standing up for ourselves. We really have so much power because of our power of acquisition, right? Our purchase power. And our numbers are so huge. And yet we still act like second-class citizens. And we feel like, somebody should throw us a bone or something, when we really can demand. I always say in the book, power is taken, not given. And we don't realize that we have the power to demand. And it's very important. You had a question.
I know that your message was geared towards Latinas.
Yes.
Which is amazing, especially coming from a family where I'm surrounded by mostly females.
Uh-huh.
How can men of all ages, what can they take from your message and your book?
That's a great question. So he's asking me about the book is designed for women. And let me tell you why I did that. Number one, because this was my turn to give back. And it turns out that where the juice is in our country is with the women. They're the ones that are really overachieving right now. However, the book is very applicable to men. But I think the big lesson for men is that this is the moment of women. The truth is that, when you hear on television about earmarks, there's money earmarked, there's this earmark in Washington. What that really means is that whoever is the number one purchaser in the country and the voters, there is money that's they get to the top of the list with the money in government contracts, in supplier diversity in corporations, all this hidden money in America, grants in nonprofits. And the truth is that if men really want to do well, they got to support women right now. I would say that if you have a wife, if you have a multicultural woman in your life, you're lucky, because put her at the top of the business and you'll do better in getting money. And frankly, if you don't, you should partner with a woman, because you have a much better shot of it working. So I really believe it's the era of the woman. I mean, if we're historians, if we look in history, there are times in history where women have been in a much different role than we've had in the last 100 years. And I think our moment has finally come. Economically, it's absolutely a fact. Yes, Josie?
Okay, so I think for my generation, I'm older than you, there were no sponsor, and what is that? You know, because the girls,
Great question.
the girls we work with, right, 9 to 11 or 8 to 11, and teach them entrepreneurship, the fathers are like, I don't like this. So how young should we be teaching it? And
Great question.
And part of being an entrepreneur is learning to fail. I didn't fail till I was 40, and it was devastating.
Right. All great questions. Thank you, Josie. So the reason I wrote this book is because 2 years ago, I did an event with Sheryl Sandberg, the CFO of Facebook. And she had written a book that many of you may have heard of, Lean In. And I love the book. I'm so glad it began a new conversation about women in power. But as I was interviewing her for this event, I had a room full of multicultural women and mostly Latinas. And the vibe we were getting and the questions she was getting were, Sheryl, we love your book, but it's not relatable to us. We didn't all go to Harvard. We don't have all the right contacts. We didn't end up, our third job in, we didn't end up in a company that gives you stock that's worth $1 billion. We're not even at the table. How can we lean in? And I thought to myself, you know, every time I'm an avid reader, when I read a book about power and money, it's always from a white woman or a white man's point of view. And, you know, Susie Orman is my idol. I love her. And I just thought to myself, you know, like, and that's, you know, that's a thought that comes to me about everything. Like when I decided to be an entrepreneur, I was like, well, why can't I be an entrepreneur? Maybe I can. And I thought, well, why can't I write this book? And of course, negative, you know, well, I'm not rich enough to write this book. Maybe there's other women that have made more money than me. And I thought, it's not important. I have had an entrepreneurial journey. I'm an immigrant, and that is valuable in this moment. And the most important thing is that I have the chutzpah to get the book out there and crack the code of how to get it on the, you know, how to get a book on the New York Times bestseller list, which is how thought leaders in America are made. And I thought to myself, Latinas and women of color need to see a one of us on the cover of a book about money. And I thought, what would really help me to do that? And I thought, if Susie Orman wrote my foreword. And I've met Susie Orman 4 times in my life. I don't know her well, didn't know her well. And I had to be really brave. You know, like Latinas were afraid to ask for anything. I wrote her an email and I said, Susie, I really, you know I'm your biggest fan. I would really love it if you did this for me. And I was like, before I sent the email, I go, what if she says no? What if, you know, like, and then I go, if she says no, she says no. Send. And literally 5 minutes later, she emailed me back and she said, I would love to. And so it tells you a lot about the power of declaring what you want. Not just saying, I want to write a book. I want to write a New York Times bestseller book that is vetted and that is okayed by Susie Orman. I mean, that's a clear, concrete goal. And I talk about that in the book. Our goals are too small. We have to think big. We have to declare big things. We have to concretely write it down. And then we have to take the steps to make it happen. And it doesn't always work out, but I talk about in the book that I've had to make fear and failure my best friends. Because in order to succeed, you just heard my resume, it sounds really good. My dear friend Sonia and I, how many times have we failed to get 2 or 3 successes? A lot. So in our personal lives, in business, fail, fail, fail. And it has to get to the point where you go, fear, it shows up, do it anyway. Do it anyway. Failure, okay, I'm going to cry for a week, get back on the horse. Get back on the horse. The world is made of people that are perseverant, that stick to things, that complete what they begin. Most people have great ideas, do not complete what they begin. And that is the difference between people. Yes.
Well, right there, what you just said, that people have great ideas. What can they do to stay motivated? What would be a good technique? Because I'm sure there are many people, if not all of us, have 1 or 2 great ideas, but we just never push through and continue and follow through.
Well, I'll tell you what did it for me. So, you know, my parents know this. I started a business when I was 25 years old. I was living in the East Village. My parents would come and go, ay, Dios mío, este lugar that you live in, it's horrible. You know, ya para esta cosa, right? But my boss had said to me, one of my bosses had said to me, when I was your age, I started a business, and for 10 years it didn't make money, and then I hit big. And so I thought, well, I'm only on year 4, but actually I'm going to shortcut even that for you guys, because what I did wrong those 4 years, I didn't join organizations. I didn't join my chamber of commerce. I didn't join a professional organization in my field that would have told me that I had some mistakes in my business plan. Once I started joining organizations and I cleaned up my business plan, my business took off. So I was trying to do what most entrepreneurs do, which is do it all yourself and bootstrap it, which is ridiculous. I tell people, do not leave your job. Start a side hustle, 1 hour a week, and learn and learn and learn and do your homework. You don't leave till you're ready to leave. So I think that, you know, if you look at a lot of people, if you find people that you can ask, like me, that you say, you know, you have a lot of people sitting in this room that are entrepreneurs, that, you know, it's going to be hard for everybody. If everybody could do it, everybody would do it, right? So you're going to have obstacles, but, you know, I think you have to realize, like my son asked me one day, he's like, Mom, what's the meaning of life? And I go, oh my God, could he ask me something easier than that? Lucas does that a lot. He asks me questions and I'm like, ay, Dios mío. And we were talking about it and we said, well, you know, life is like a video game. And I think I said this to you on the plane. You go to level 1, and then you get to level 2, and then you screw up, and you go back to level 1, and you really have to think of it as a game. Because if you get freaked out every time something goes wrong, you're going to get freaked out every day of your life. I mean, every day things go wrong, every day. So a lot of the mindset, not just of an entrepreneur, but of a successful person, is to reframe tragedia. You know, Latinos are very dramatic. Ay, Dios mío. It's more like you're problem solving. You're doing a Rubik's Cube. You're finishing a puzzle, right? Because life is a puzzle that reveals itself slowly. You know, one of the things I say in the book is, it's like es un dicho latino, but I'll say it in English. And then, you know, I say in the book, sometimes when you win, you lose, and sometimes when you lose, you win. And in Spanish, it's no hay mal que por bien no venga, right? Sometimes really bad things happen to you, but you don't realize you just met somebody through that bad thing that knows somebody, that the next big deal of your life is around the corner. It is very synchronistic. So you just have to flow with the obstacle course you're on. You're on an obstacle course. And you have to really have, one of the things I say in the book is, to be chosen, you have to choose yourself first. You know, when those of us that invest in people and invest in businesses, you don't invest in an idea alone, you invest in a human being. And so that human being might not get it right the first time, but they'll get it right the 3rd time or the 4th time. So you have to be one of those human beings that gives off the vibe that you're worth investing in, that you're a winner. And so in order to do that, you have to choose yourself every day of your life. And those negative things that come into your head, which, by the way, they come into everybody's head. I'm not enough. Who do I think I am? Who do I think I am writing this book? You know, I tell the story in the book that I get a call from NBC, and they go, we want you to be on Celebrity Apprentice. And the president of NBC called me. I had been selling them TV shows. And I go, but why? I'm not a celebrity. I put myself down. The minute he said that, that was the first thing that came into my mind, and I vomited it out. And he goes, why don't you just say thank you for me giving you millions of dollars of publicity for your personal brand? And I'm like, thank you. And he was right. And I don't even want to tell you the fear on the day that I had to take the plane to go to, and here I am, I'm a producer that produces reality shows. But because I know what we do, I didn't want to be on that reality show. And when I got on that show, from a marketing point of view, it changed my life forever. Because I went from being a behind the scenes person to the woman that told Donald Trump off in a classy way, but told him off. And guess what? He loved it. He kept me on the show longer and longer and longer because he likes to fight, in case you haven't noticed. So, you know, I think it is that kind of mindset that you have to cultivate. The other thing we shouldn't say is, you're not born this way. I'm like a chicken shit. I was born, like, ask my parents, super miedosa. So you have to cultivate, you know, this idea and this strength, and you do it one brick at a time, one day at a time, one decision at a time, when you're afraid and you go, I'm going to do it anyway. You get to the other side and you went, I did it. And then you're like, wow. And that's it. That's how you build self-esteem and empowerment. My son wants to ask a question. Oh my God, I'm afraid. I'm very afraid. Yes.
Your biggest fan speaking. If you could go back and do anything like different.
Oh, I don't even want to answer that because you know the answer to that question. Well, I have to be honest, even though I hate saying this in front of you, but so you know that I say in the book, there's no Prince Charming. No one is coming to save us. Not a mate. That doesn't mean we don't have happy mates. That doesn't mean we don't love our families and our mates. But no mate, no company, no corporation, no boss, no government, no president of the United States is going to save you. When you finally figure out that you can do it yourself and that you're all you've got, that doesn't mean you don't have a family you love, children. But you know, your kids sometimes turn into your Prince Charming, or your parents turn into your Prince Charming, and that's not good. And when you realize you can do it, and that your family and the loves of your life are icing on the cake, they're not the whole cake. You're the whole cake. Your life changes. And so you know that I spent many years looking for Prince Charming in many ways. And it wasn't until I dropped it and I realized that I was Prince Charming. You know, and a lot of people, you saw that I gave Brian, my mate, a beautiful dedication, and he is a wonderful person, but a lot of my friends meet him and they go, oh my God, you're so lucky you found Brian because he's so nice, right? And he is a great guy. And I go, what do you mean? He's lucky he's got me. I'm Prince Charming, okay? And we're both lucky, but it's true. And I think I wouldn't have found him if I hadn't done the work on myself. That's the truth. Another question, Lucas? Your questions scare me. Oh, no, don't say that. No, let's not talk about politics right now. But I'm happy to answer that if people really want to know. But, I mean, you can only imagine. Actually, I don't mind saying it. I'm voting for Hillary Clinton. You know that. And I do, you know, you can only imagine that if I could in any way, shape, or form be able to vote for Trump, it would be really great for me, wouldn't it? But I can't. I have lived in Trump Tower for 6 weeks, and I cannot abide by anyone or any party that allows people to speak badly of immigrants and Latinos. I cannot. And I feel that that messaging has to end. And I feel like as Latinos, we have to make sure that it stops. And, you know, I'm a very conservative person financially. So, you know, I could have gone to that party, but I can't. So that's how I feel about it. Thank you, Lucas. Other questions? Yes. Great question. How do you begin? So I think that you heard me say that becoming self-made is not a grandiose feat, right? You shouldn't think, oh my God, I got to quit my job. And nada dramático en la vida. Slow, calm. I think that what I would recommend is that you go to your closet on a Sunday and take out that quinceañera dress that's still hanging in your closet that you don't need. Take a picture of it and post it on eBay or Amazon. And that's it. That's all you have to do. 1 hour, one Sunday, and begin. Life, this is a perfect segue to something I want to read you. Life is about taking action. Dreams with action. And the actions don't have to be grand and like dramatic and crazy. They can be small actions that add up to more small actions that add up to an aha that changes your life. So perfect timing. I'm going to read in Spanish out of the Spanish book. I had the privilege of doing an event with Rigoberta Menchú. Does everybody know who she is? Rigoberta Menchú was the youngest and first Latina Nobel Peace Laureate. And until Malala, she was the youngest Nobel Peace Laureate. And she went on the road with me and she told me a story that's very apropos to what you just asked. So let me find this. Hold on, give me 1 second, because it's really a beautiful story about exactly what we were saying. He pasado los últimos 4 años viajando y asistiendo a encuentros de mujeres para hablar y enseñarles de emprendimiento. Y he tenido el privilegio de llevar en esos viajes a muchas mujeres inspiradoras. Una de ellas, Rigoberta Menchú, laureada con el Premio Nobel, me ha ayudado a entender y a visualizar lo que significa ser una emprendedora todos los días. Rigoberta es una mujer indígena de Guatemala. En su juventud vivió en las montañas en una época en que la guerrilla arrasaba a su paso por todo el país y los pueblos indígenas estaban siendo aniquilados. Cada domingo su padre caminaba con ella 6 horas hasta un convento en el que Rigoberta podía trabajar como sirvienta toda la semana hasta que su padre volvía a recogerla. Finalmente, ella aprendió a ir y volver por sí sola. El trabajo de Rigoberta en el convento era tan bueno que les cayó en gracia a las monjas. Al principio ella solo hablaba en su dialecto indígena, pero las monjas le enseñaron español y también leer y escribir. Una vez que pudieron comunicarse, ella pudo contarles las cosas terribles que le estaban ocurriendo a su pueblo. Cuando Rigoberta era una adolescente, la mayoría de su familia fue masacrada por guerrilleros mientras que ella estaba en el convento. Temiendo por su seguridad, las monjas la sacaron del país de contrabando y la enviaron a un convento en México. I'm going to speed it up because I want to get to it. So this is about Rigoberta Menchú, and her entire indigenous village was massacred when she was a maid in a convent. And so she wrote a book about it and won the Nobel Peace Prize. And so she said, si yo pude ganar el premio Nobel habiendo empezado de sirvienta que ni siquiera sabía leer, entonces tú también puedes lograr grandes cosas. ¿Cuál es tu excusa, tú que vives en Estados Unidos con tantos dones y ventajas? Rigoberta también me contó algo que hizo vibrar una cuerda muy profunda dentro de mí y que me ha centrado en este trabajo. Y trato de hacer eco de eso cuando yo misma hablo a mujeres. Ella me dijo, el pueblo indígena guatemalteco cree que todos debemos usar un cinturón para recordarnos que la mitad de nosotros es del cielo y la mitad de la tierra. Cada día al despertar necesitamos recordarnos a nosotros mismos el sueño más alto que tengamos, porque si no, nuestros sueños no somos nada. Tenemos que pensar en grande y muy ampliamente e imaginar cosas que queremos que no son posibles. Luego debemos recordarnos a nosotros mismos que esos sueños deben ser bajados a la tierra, porque también somos de la tierra. Los sueños sin acciones no son nada, se evaporan. So I think that says it all. In English, what she said is, indigenous people always wear a belt to remind us that half of us is of the sky and that we have to wake up every day and think and dream expansively about what is your wildest dream. But then the belt should also remind you that you're of the earth and that you need to take those dreams and plant them in the ground and take steps every day to make them happen. Because dreams without action evaporate and they're nothing at all. So I think that says it all. I think that should remind us every day. What I do on December 31st every year is I write down what are the 3 things I'm going to accomplish that year. Not 20 things, not 30 things, not 10 things, 3 things. And sometimes in a year it's laser hair removal happens to be one of them. They don't have to be that dramatic. But the point, and sometimes it's losing 32 pounds, which I've done. And sometimes it's writing a book. I didn't think I was going to write 2 books and 4 websites. I always over-deliver. I'm an immigrant. But the key to the story is you have to complete what you begin. So I take those 3 things, and every week I come up with 3 things that I have to accomplish that week in order to get to my 3 of the year. And I break it down to 3 things per day. Again, not 100 things, because then I do nothing and I feel unaccomplished. My goal is to feel completion every day of my life. And I think that's a very tactical way to do it. Any last minute questions? Ah, ¿quieren un poquito de español? Ok, bueno, hágame una pregunta en español. Y yo contesto en español. I do.
So that means that you are overcoming fear on and on and on. You haven't found some safe space?
I mean, I think what you think is fear and what I think is fear might be a little different. I mean, I'm not afraid every day of my life, walking through life. What I say fear is that I try to challenge myself all the time. If I was doing the same thing every day that I've been doing for 30 years, like so many people do, that they start becoming the living dead, right? I tend to do things that I know nothing about. And I actually like that. I almost like fear. Because if I'm not feeling a little afraid, you know, then I'm not learning anything. And I guess in answer to your question, I think for me, my number one value is to grow every day by any means necessary. So, you know, I'm now going to learn to code. I'm not a coder, but I want to learn to code. I may learn Mandarin Chinese. I had never done a book in English and Spanish in record time. Some days, Maria Elena, it is really challenging for me because some days I do say to myself, must I climb Mount Kilimanjaro every day? I mean, what is it? Like, is that a sickness in me that I have to do that? So I do put myself in, maybe I've worked that muscle so much that I almost don't feel alive if I'm not afraid. So I guess if I was living a life común y corriente where I'm doing the same thing, but I've never lived that life. You can ask my parents. And so I do live a lot in this, but it's a delicious fear. It's kind of a fear that it's like, wow, it's not like I think I'm not going to do it. It's more like I think, ooh, this is really scary. And then I go, okay, let's jump. And I do it. And then it feels really good. So there's a real high after the fear. Yep. En español, dale. Pregúntame algo en español. Sí, yo creo que cuando uno empieza a hacer cosas exitosas, a veces tú te crees, wow, eso me pasó como de suerte o qué, o no sé lo que estoy haciendo. Y vamos a ser honestos que muchos emprendedores y empresarios, ¿cuántas veces hemos dicho, sí, yo sé hacer eso y no lo sabes hacer y te tiras para hacer la cosa y entonces you learn it as you go, right? Lo aprendes haciéndolo. Pero yo creo que con el tiempo eso se me ha quitado. Porque yo creo que al fin, cuando tienes tantos éxitos, X éxitos, llega el día que tú sabes que tú no eres un fraud. ¿Cómo se dice fraud en español? Fraude, que no eres fraude. Tú sabes que, como yo digo, si mañana hubiera una guerra mundial y me tengo que ir a Rusia, yo pudiera hacer todo esto otra vez. Yo sé cómo hacerlo. Y yo creo que hay que recordar eso. Que si todo se fuera a ir mañana, porque eso es uno de los inmigrantes, tenemos ese pánico, porque nos ha pasado, que hemos estado en otros países y todo se ha acabado de un día para otro y hay que empezar de nuevo. Y eso es un trauma que tenemos como post-traumatic stress, right? Pero yo creo que tú tienes que siempre recordar, si todo se acabara mañana y yo me tuviera que ir a otro país y empezar de nuevo, aprendería otro idioma y yo sé cómo empezar otro negocio y lo haría otra vez. Y yo creo que eso te da mucha satisfacción. Por lo menos a mí me lo da. Saber eso. Y saber que yo también, porque cuando uno hace todo uno mismo de abajo para arriba, tú sabes que tú tienes, es como building a house brick by brick. Tú sabes cómo hacerlo. So, a mí eso me da mucha satisfacción. Any other questions? Yes. Espérate, no oí porque dímelo otra vez. Yo creo, sí, a mí todo el mundo se siente vulnerable en algún momento, pero yo no tengo esos, yo no me dejo sentir esos pensamientos por mucho tiempo, porque yo creo que ser mujer y ser latina es la ventaja que tenemos, y ser inmigrantes es la ventaja que tenemos. So, yo creo que en la vida tú tienes que otra vez cultivar the cup half full or the cup half empty, right? Y tú tienes que mirar, si tú te pones a decir todas las cosas, mira, me están discriminando. Sí, es verdad, todas las cosas te están pasando. Pero tú tienes que turn it around y decir, esa es mi ventaja. Yo digo, hay un capítulo en el libro que se llama In Your Pain is Your Brand, right? Que el dolor más grande que tú hayas tenido en la vida te hace una experta en ese dolor. Entonces tú tienes que pensar que ese dolor llegó a tu vida por alguna razón y que tú tienes que hacer algo con ese dolor, inclusive empezar un negocio con ese dolor. ¿Cuál es el problema que tú vas a resolver? Porque tú sabías lo que te faltaba a ti durante ese dolor. You know, en este país hay una cosa que se llama Lean Startup, right? Cómo empezar un negocio. Y te dicen que la manera más fácil de empezar un negocio es busca un problema que tú tienes. Mira adentro de ti, ¿cuál es un problema que tú tienes? Ya sea un producto, ya sea un dolor que tú tuviste, que te faltó algo. Te falta un producto, te falta algo para tu dolor. Te falta algo para tu negocio. Inventa la solución. Y después encuentra una audiencia para esa solución. Porque hay otra gente como tú que tienen el mismo problema tuyo y que necesitan a alguien que lo resuelva. So, hay tanto es que yo, sinceramente, yo puedo hablar de esto desde ahora hasta que el día que me muera, porque yo de verdad creo que para la mayoría de las mujeres, casi una de las pocas maneras que podemos tener casi todo, porque no se puede tener todo en la vida, casi todo es con tu propio negocio. Porque, por ejemplo, en el caso mío, yo compré la casa al lado de mi casa y yo trabajo en la casa al lado de mi casa. Desde que mi hijo es chiquito, él llega de la escuela y yo estoy ahí. ¿Cómo yo pudiera hacer eso en una corporación? Y yo he trabajado para corporaciones y yo creo que es importante trabajar por una corporación porque aprende uno mucho. Yo creo que uno no debe ir y lanzarse en tu propia compañía hasta que tú hayas trabajado en una corporación, porque hay cosas que tienes que aprender. Pero al final de la historia, como casi se puede tener todo, y seguramente nunca vas a tener el tipo de abundancia trabajando para otra gente como si trabajas para ti mismo. Imposible. Unless you're Sheryl Sandberg. Sí. One more. Yes. Yes, I love Tony Robbins. Significance. I think he's right.
Love or connection, then growth, contribution, significance. Which one do you think is your primary and secondary human need?
Great question. I think that the human needs that Tony Robbins talks about, which I love him, and I'm a friend of his, and I've known him for years, and I think he's a great teacher. I think it depends on the phase of your life where you're at. I think at certain phases of your life, you need certainty. At other phases of your life, you need, that connection, right? And I think that for me, at this phase of my life, I need significance because I've already made money. I've already accomplished a lot of things. So I'm working on a project that to me is about helping women and significance. Maria Elena, I want you to talk about that because you're totally about significance. Wouldn't you say that life is in phases?
You were talking about building. The way I saw it, I explained it to my.
Maria Elena is one of my mentors, so I would love for her to share.
Okay.
She's so fabulous.
Nelly and I have a lot in common. As a matter of fact, I look at her and I said, was I that way?
Don't even tell you.
Yeah, well,
Don't get me started.
we still want to do something together, which is something that so many women, talking about what do you need at a certain time in your life? What do you need between the ages of 45 and 55 when you're going through the change of life, when your hormones are going crazy, when your face and your skin is sagging, when you're getting, what do you need? When you need a psychiatrist because you're hitting your husband or you think that he's unfaithful or, that is a phase or that's a project that I would like to do. Because at the end of the road, and I'm 78 years old, at the end of the road, you're alone. Your husband died, your sons are grown and have children and they have their own lives. I pass my business to my children and they have done very, very well. Thanks, Maria Elena. Thanks, Mom. I haven't heard that yet. I keep waiting. But now this is a piece of advice. At the end of the road, when you get to the time where, your life is changing, and I'm not the project of menopause, when your life is changing, you're losing your friends, your parents are gone, what do you do? Let me tell you what I did. I went to a Buddhist monastery in Northern California, and I had a teacher who was fantastic, and a Tibetan Buddhist. And I spent 3 months one time alone without talking to anybody. And solely out of that loneliness, I turned loneliness into strength. We were talking that I live alone. My children, one lives in California. My grandson, I have 3 boys, all boys, a brother. My grandson is in Thailand because he's teaching English there. So we're a little bit adventurous. But whatever she's talking about, what it takes to have self-confidence is one step at a time. And watch what, I have never been afraid. That's why, so maybe, no, it's not that I'm fearless, it's just that I'm stupid. I don't take the time to think, Marilena, you want to come to Washington and work for the President of the United States? Oh, yes. Okay. Why did I get the invitation? Because at the time, I was probably the only woman Democrat, Hispanic, Cubana, Democrat. Oh, she's a rare bird, so let's get her. So I work not for 1, but for 3. So those are the nidos de oportunidad. They need a Hispanic. They need a woman. Hey, you're it. Go for it. Look at where the need is. What is happening? What are the trends? You bring something to the table that wasn't there. And if you're trustworthy, you have self-confidence, you have backing, try to get backing financially from somebody, even if it's a bank, or an SBA loan of $20,000. That's how, that's how I started. So I'm delighted to be here. I love Nelly. I give her a lot of credit. She's not afraid every day. Mentira.
Thank you all very much for coming. I'm going to sign books. I'm happy to keep answering questions. Do you want to come back up?
I do.
Steve?
Thank you, Nelly.
Oh, thank you.
Folks, we do have the books for sale behind the counter, as Nelly said, and Permiso mi español es muy malo. Adelante is in Spanish, Self-Made in English. We have them for sale behind the counters. If you're watching online, give us a call. You here, try to limit yourself to 10 copies apiece, because I only have a few behind the counter.
Not a piece, because I need them for tomorrow.
Nelly's going to be sitting right here signing. Can we get another round of applause for our author? That was a great event. Thank you all for coming. Stick around. We got some live music in the courtyard. We got a great restaurant. We got beer and wine. Your Books and Books. Make a night of it. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.